Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day, everyone. My name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Now, are you interested about Australian visa, immigration, and perhaps study abroad? Why don't you consider to subscribe to our channel? So once we have all the updates and news, you will be the first one of getting all the insights. Now, in today's video, I would like to discuss and share a bit more about how a relatives or perhaps family related type of visas that you could actually access through the variety of all these visa category that we have. They are a few, some of them utilizing your current skill, and some of them are basically sponsoring your relative that's, for example, your parents or somebody who is dependent on you in order to actually gain these visa categories. So why don't you jump into the actual visa web page and let's go into the detail. Now, the first one I would like to discuss is the visa processing time, because I noticed there are a numbers of people. Actually, there are a lot of people who has already lodged the parent visas and now currently being delayed, obviously due to the current COVID situations. So at the moment that the publish of the contents that the immigrations have provided is at this as of the September 2020, which is, how many months is that? 4 months away from current date, and now today is the 25th of January 2021. So the contributory parents are currently queued up to people who had lodged the visa back in 2016 May now. Ooh, that's around 4 years of wait time period. The parent visa is queued up to August 2010. Now you can see the problematic of the queue that's currently have. Now this is of course obviously by the decrease of the annual quota from the previous 190,000 down to 160,000, which has actually squeezed the whole processing pipeline, shall I say. And of course, again, 2020, due to the COVID-19 situations, everything has been postponed. So unfortunately, that's the current status. So I would say that if you are really seeking to sponsor your parents in ways of getting a permanent residency in Australia, get in the line as soon as possible, because the wait time will only be longer than getting earlier. So that's currently what we have at the moment. Now, so what other visa category that we have now? We will jump into the contributory parent visa. Obviously, there's a subclass 173 as well, but today I would like to share with you with the 143, which is commonly used, unless your parents are currently at the age of over 66 or 67, then you may consider using the contributory aged parent visa, which allows your parent to actually lodge onshore in Australia, so they can wait onshore rather than the contributory subclass 143 parent visa. You can only do it offshore, and at the time of grant of visa, you are required to be offshore as well. Now, the easiest way is then you need to have a sponsor. Now, there's no more retiree. Because you can see that on May 8th, 2018, this is all stopped, so you can't do retiree anymore. So you need to get a sponsor, and you need to meet the balance of family test. That means you need to get your child, or the applicant, the sponsor has to be the Australian permanent resident or Australian citizen in order to actually sponsor your parents. And you need to meet the balance of family test. That means that at least half of your parents' children, who's going to be your siblings, are required to be settled in Australia in order to actually get this visa done. Otherwise, you won't be able to. The tricky game behind this is that if you have more siblings living outside of Australia, then Australia will consider that your parents can be taken care of by your other siblings, by your brother or sisters. If more than half of your siblings, including you, actually settle in Australia, then the Australia will accept your parents. So that means that you and your sibling will be taking care of your parents. So that's one way to go. That's for parent visa. Now the other side is that I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they opened up this new sponsor parent temporary visa. Now, the only drawback on this visa is that your parent would actually never get a permanent residency. It's more for a long term, 3 to 5 years sponsoring. Now, the advantage of this visa, subclass 870, is that you no longer have that family balance test anymore. So you can have three. Including you have three brothers and sisters, including you, and two of them are not in Australia, only you. So you cannot meet the family balance test. Then at this point in time, you'll be able to sponsor your parent with a long-term visa, 3 to 5 years. Now, obviously, you can see the costing is high. You're actually paying a premium to actually get into this visa. So there's no much, as you can see, it's a much easier category to apply, and there is no requirement of family balance test. Okay, so that's a good side about this. Now, finally, the last visa I would like to introduce is more about the skill part. So if you're not sponsor, but you are more towards the applicant, you're seeking to actually migrate to Australia by word of skill, and you notice that there's you have a relative actually living in Australia, you may be able to access through subclass 491. Now, 491 is traditionally more for skill. As you can see, it's a skill work regional. So the criteria here is that obviously you need to meet the EOI 65 minimum points, whereby you need to get your skill assessed. So if you do not know what skill assessment is, you might need to refer back to my previous videos, and you can dig into detail on that one. And then you need to get your English tests, so you get that points, you get qualifications. And if you do have relatives living in regional Australia, now this has to be regional Australia, cannot be Melbourne, it cannot be Sydney, cannot be Brisbane, it only can be in regional Australia, okay? Then you could access this through a sponsorship by eligible relative. Now this is very interesting because as you can see, the sponsor, now that's not going to be you now, it's turning around. Your relative has to be above 80 years old or older. They have to be in designated area of Australia, so that basically meant the regional areas of Australia, and of course they are citizen or permanent resident. And what is the definition of eligible relative? So here we go. So it can be parent, child, stepchild, brother, sister, adopted, brother, adopted, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, aunt, uncle, adoptive aunt, adopted uncle, step aunt or step uncle, nephew, niece, so on and so forth, and grandparents and first cousins. So again, I think that's another way you could actually access to. Sorry, I missed that page here. Okay, here we go. I was actually spending more time talking through, but I forgot to actually share the screen. So as you can see here, that's the eligible relative that you may be able to access to. So it doesn't have that family balance test again. So it's for people who have skill in a certain age between 20 to 45, and do have these relatives living in designated regional Australia, then you may be able to access to this stream. And obviously the state government do provide a separate stream to this, but their definition of eligible relative is much more narrower than this list that immigration actually provide. So again, as the Australian immigration regulation evolve, it it became and become more and more complex and more complicated. So I will keep you guys up to date with all the updates, because state have their own and the federal government have their own criteria, and then there are so many different type of visas out there. So obviously no one could actually memorize them. I've spent almost 20 years in this profession. Anyway, that's the reason I'm creating this channel, to actually share and make this information more transparent to all of you. Now, thank you for watching, and I see you for next video. Goodbye.